And Ukrainian reports say Belarusian opposition leader Maria Kolesnikova has torn up her passport at the border to resist being deported to Ukraine.
It's 9:01.
KLEK LP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for Community Conversations, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place, while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
Good morning, everybody, and happy Tuesday to you. You're tuned into Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. I'm your host, Kobila Jones, and I hope that you can hear me. I don't hear the background music. 2, 3, 4. All right, Ms. Zima, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great.
Okay. All right, so I hope everyone is having a great start to their day. I am joined by Mrs. Emma Agnew, who is the candidate for Ward 1, Position 2 for this the Jonesboro City Council. I'm so sorry. Not Craighead County, Jonesboro City Council. All right, so how are you doing this morning?
I am fabulous.
That's
doing great.
Wonderful. So let's go ahead and get right into our discussion. So tell the listeners and viewers a little bit more about yourself and why you decided to run for City Council.
Okay. Well, I am Emma Agnew, and I am living in Jonesboro since 2000. Moved here when I married my husband, Reverend Elijah Agnew. I am a lover of people, a lover of justice, a lover of equality, and a Christian woman. And I am looking forward to serving the city of Jonesboro. I got into this race because, quite frankly, Kabila, I just think it's time. Okay. My career and even my life has prepared me for such a time as this. So I believe that it is time for me to run. I have some relatable experiences. Of course, I've not been a councilwoman before, but I do have some relatable experiences from working in the community and with the community. And so I just thought I would really love to represent the city of Jonesboro as a council person.
Okay. Many people may know you from your time you served in the mayor's office.
Yeah.
And so you did get quite a bit of insight into how the city council operates. Mm-hmm. And so I would say that lends itself to your experience.
Right.
And so what is some other experience you've had that you feel would lend itself to helping you, if you are elected, that will help you make the best decisions for the city, or that will just give you what you need?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Well, when I worked in the mayor's office, I started off as coordinator of the Community Development Block Grant.
Okay.
And so in that position, I had the opportunity to develop the plan for spending. At that time, we were getting close to $600,000 a year. Mm. And so I had the opportunity to develop a plan for that spending and submit it to HUD for approval. And then the responsibility of making sure that money was spent as outlined. And that whole process had to go through the city council.
Okay.
As far as approving getting the plan approved before it was actually sent to HUD, went to the mayor and the city council. And then, of course, the city council had to approve the spending as we went along. And during that time, also, we held, one of the requirements is that you hold community public hearings.
Okay.
And so I set those public hearings up. made sure the appropriate announcements were done, even done some extra because all outlets do not reach everybody.
Okay.
And so, just did some one-on-one working with community folk, making sure they knew that the public hearing was coming up. And the public hearing is where the public has an opportunity to have input into that plan I put together.
Okay.
And so that's still happening, and I always encourage people to make sure you come to those public hearings and express your interest of what's in that plan, because you do get an opportunity to see it before it goes to the city council for approval. And also, other than CDBG, after I did that, I also was the community services manager.
Okay.
I was promoted from CDBG to community services manager. I still work with CDBG as a part of my community services.
Okay.
But as community services manager, it was my responsibility to make sure that all segments of the Jonesboro community were included in the processes and were familiar with what's going on in the city of Jonesboro, to keep them updated. It was during this time that I actually led the effort with the mayor's task force to establish the hub, the homeless development center. And it was also during this time that we increased the visibility of NJNI. NJNI started with while I was CDBG coordinator.
Okay.
But one of the things as community services manager, they wanted me to focus more on NJNI, excuse me. And so we did that. And I've just always been a community person, served on boards and sat in on meetings and advised organizations, et cetera, et cetera. So I've just always been a community person. And before that, some people might remember me from Beacons and Bridges. That was my first job. Yeah, when I came to Jonesboro, I worked at Beacons and Bridges and worked in the community there. And the whole thing of Beacons and Bridges was to encourage the underserved in Jonesboro. And so here again, I am working in the community, meeting people, finding out their desires, their dreams. Did a lot of business development, encouragement in the minority community, taught business plan classes, and just, generally worked in the community, held meetings, and was a sounding board for a lot of folk in the community at that time.
All right.
So, yeah.
Oh, so you've done quite a bit here in Jonesboro.
Yeah, I hit the ground running when I moved here.
All right.
Yeah.
And I need to back up and give this disclaimer. This interview, KLEK and the Voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council does not support, endorse, or we do not support or endorse any candidate. This interview was provided for informational purposes only. So I'm sorry, I forgot to give that disclaimer in the beginning. So again, Mrs. Emma Agnew is running for, she's a candidate for Ward 1 position 2 on the Jonesboro City Council. I want to say good morning to a few people. Mr. Derek Coleman says good morning, beautiful queens.
Good morning, Derek.
Ms. Linda Johnson Frazier says good morning, KLEK, and good morning, Mrs. Emma. You're absolutely right. It is time. And
good morning. Thank you.
She says you have life experience.
Oh, yeah.
And our very own Dean, Dr. Sharice Jones Ranch, says good morning, Sora Agnew.
Good morning, sister.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into some of the issues that the city of Jonesboro faces, and let's start off with some of the issues that you feel are vital that you would like to tackle if you are elected to city council.
Okay. One of my top issues, and I will be just very candid with you, is in the city of Jonesboro is diversity and inclusion.
Okay.
As I told you, I moved here in 2000. So I've been here 20 years.
Okay.
And when I moved here from Memphis, and I was in shock at the minority population.
Okay.
which was at that time about 8%, about 5% African American, and about 3% Latino. And so I was surprised and shocked at that. And coming from Memphis, where I had worked in the community as a minority business developer type person, there were so many minority-owned businesses. And then when I came to Jonesboro, there were just one or two, literally, with storefronts and offices. Let me add that. There may have been some operating in the home. And so this is not your Jonesboro of 2000.
Okay.
You know, over 20 years, we are now, African Americans are now about 19% of the population, and then our brown brothers and sisters are at about 8-9%. And so total, we're over 25% of the population in the city of Jonesboro now.
Yeah.
And so this diversity and inclusion has not changed that much since I was here in 2000. It still looks the way it did in 2000, pretty much. Boards, commissions, positions within city government, not only city government, but several of our other organizations, nonprofit organizations, manufacturing facilities, they just have not changed that much. This is 2020. It's almost 2021. Jonesboro has got to realize that until all of its citizens are doing and being the best that they can be, the city of Jonesboro will not be the best that it can be. That's just a fact. It's been proven time and time again. And another issue for me is quality of life.
Okay.
And when I say quality of life, I'm including a number of issues like housing, which is a whole discussion by itself, affordable housing,
Yes, ma'am.
Education, making sure, encouraging our parents and our community to be involved in the educational process, to know what's going on at these schools, and to have input as to what happens. Another issue for me, is infrastructure.
Okay.
You can't build a community without quality infrastructure. You can't recruit businesses without quality infrastructure. And another thing is businesses in North Jonesboro. There needs to be more development, more economic development, more community development in some of our lower income areas. And I think the city needs to look at recruiting businesses to locate in North Jonesboro by offering incentives if necessary to include locations in certain areas. So those are just some of the issues. But I have a lot of issues.
And I'm glad you brought the economic development and the quality of life. I'm glad you brought that up because those are things that are important to me. I moved here by way of going to college in 1995, and so again, I have seen and then not seen some of the growth and development in Jonesboro, and I have lived. Not intentionally on the north side since I've been in Jonesboro, and again I've seen some change, but then not a lot of upward growth. It's just been change, and so I would like to see some things happening, and I do think, as you mentioned, there needs to be a little more diversity and inclusion, not just on the city council, but across the board, so that, again, all citizens, and I'm not just trying to pick on the north side because I live there, but until every aspect of city government represents the people of Jonesboro, again, we can't be our greatest. We hear a lot of talk about Jonesboro being compared to Fayetteville or Conway. Well, Jonesboro should have its own identity and not try to be like whatever. So then that's just my 2 cents for the day. We have some comments from Facebook. Let me scroll back up. Okay. And so Mr. John Zachary Bearden says, how do you get that development in North Jonesboro besides incentives? And then we have another question from Sean Only. I will get to that one.
Okay. Without incentives, it is
beyond incentives.
Beyond, yeah, but
okay.
I mean that's without incentives.
Okay.
If I'm hearing it correctly, it is very difficult. I mean, they offer incentives to businesses that locate anywhere. When a business comes to town, you better believe they had an incentive to come. That's economic development, and so it is negotiated. We'll move if we can get this. Well, we can't give you that, but we can offer you this.
Okay.
So businesses have always been granted incentives. We have been trying for years to encourage businesses to locate in some of the lower income areas. And as I say, it is very difficult. And one reason it's difficult is because the city has not been involved in that process. The city has not put forth an effort. When I say we, I'm just talking about small groups of residents who have talked about the possibility or contacted folk about the possibility. So, Mr. Bearden, was it?
Mm-hmm.
If you have any ideas or suggestions on that, we would love to hear them.
Mm-hmm.
But I really believe that the city should get involved in trying to get something located.
Right. And my 2 cents on this is, again, because I live there, I would love to see more resident involvement, but again, it takes a push or a nudge from those that are in leadership positions.
Right.
And that's just my 2 cents. And
Right.
I know that we can all work together and make a better Jonesboro and better every side of town, but
Absolutely.
the discussion can't stop just here
Right.
at election.
Absolutely.
Once the election's
Yeah.
over, the real work begins.
Yeah.
All right, question from Ms. Sean, and we have 3 minutes left in this segment. She says, Emma Agnew will be a great asset to City Council. It needs diversity and has been male-dominated for too long. Bravo for running. Thank you so much for that, Sean.
Thank you, Sean.
And then Mr. John says, I'm sure I will see you at Houlihan's.
Houlihan. Mr. Who?
It's the restaurant.
I
sorry.
know Houlihan, but Mr. Who said it?
Mr. John. He said, I'm sure I'll see you at the restaurant and we can chat. You have my support.
Okay.
So he's looking forward to meeting with you and chatting about those ideas. So
Okay. Oh, that's Mr. Bearden.
Yes.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
All right. And just like that, anyone else that would like to meet the candidates, reach out to them. They all have. Well, do you have a social media page just for your campaign?
I do. And
Okay.
it's Emma Agnew for Jonesboro.
Okay.
I don't, if you Google that, it'll come up. And I also have a web page that's live
Okay.
now. My web page is not 100% complete, but I did go ahead and make it live. Most of the written information is done. There's just a couple of spots for videos that I have not placed yet. So those video holders are still there. But it is Emma Agnew for citycouncil.com.
Okay. And so since we only have less than 2 minutes left in this segment, I will introduce some things that we'll talk about in the next segment.
Okay.
You mentioned quality of life and what that can look for. I remember having conversations with previous candidates, like the years before, about making more places accessible and talking to the businesses. And because I, have a disability and I don't go shopping to certain places because they're not as accessible. Either they have a high curb or whatever the case. And so maybe looking into that, because there are other individuals who are handicapped that you may not can see it, obviously.
Right.
They whatever their issue is, all disabilities are not visible. So I put it like that. And then also quality of life, such as maybe some improvements to our local parks. And we definitely want to get into, I know we've talked about Team Jonesboro, so it's only fair to ask you this as well. You know, if even if that group doesn't come back around, but maybe some of those same ideas and projects, you know, how can we move forward as a community, as a city, to try to bring some of those projects to life that would benefit all citizens, you know, and again, not trying to put one thing or another on this particular side of town just because, but how can those projects benefit all citizens? And then something a lot of people don't like to talk about, the housing issue when it comes to gentrification. We can't turn a blind eye to it. It's happening in different areas. It may not be as in your face, but it's subtly there. So definitely want to tackle those issues when we come back from our break. You're tuned in to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. Don't forget, you can check us out on our Facebook Live feed. Drop your questions and comments there for Mrs. Emma Agnew, and I'll be happy to ask them. We'll be right back after these announcements.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
What do you do when your dream dies? I'm Mark Merrill with today's Family Minute. You had aspirations of doing and being something in your life, but now your dream just isn't possible. Maybe an accident or illness took your dreams away. Maybe a divorce or financial problems killed your dream. Every day, people are forced to make a choice. Hang on to a dead dream or reach for a new one. So, how do you deal with the death of a dream? First, allow yourself to grieve. It's okay to feel badly or even terrible about your loss. Second, allow yourself to grow. Try new things, experience new hopes. Third, allow yourself to grab hold of the next dream. Don't spend all of your time focusing on what you've lost, or you'll miss what you can have. Remember, your family first.
For more resources on today's topic, go to markmerrill.com.
Made possible by the Kappa Nu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization committed to service to all mankind. Kappa Nu Omega Alpha Kappa Alpha on Facebook.
Brought to you by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, dedicated to the purpose of achievement. Jonesboro Alumni at gmail.com, Jonesboro AR Alumni Chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity on Facebook, and Jonesboro_Kappas on Instagram.
Support for KLEK is brought to you by...
Several years ago, we had a customer take a calf to the processing plant. The owner of the plant always got up very early. Our customer got a phone call at 4 o'clock in the morning, and the owner asked him, "How much of this beef do you want in hamburger?" Leniel, not an early rider, said, "Eugene, I was laying here just thinking about that." Glenn sang, "God bless our troops."
KLEK thanks the staff of Life Strategies Counseling Incorporated for helping people through hard times in life, such as depression, family issues, stress, abuse, and more. They offer counseling and therapy for all ages, individuals, families, and groups. They are located at 1217 Stone Street. Phone number 1-866-972-1268 or online at lscihelp.com.
Arkansas Early Learning prepares children up to 5 years old for kindergarten by offering a secure learning environment, qualified teachers at several locations in Northeast Arkansas at no cost. Applications are available at arearlylearning.org.
Arkansas Early Learning is a nonprofit organization.
Coronavirus. Knowledge is power.
The focus on the coronavirus has taken the attention away from two big events this year, the elections and the 2020 census. The census counts every man, woman, and child in the U.S., and Pennsylvania State Representative Ed Gainey reminds black people why, despite apprehension, We need to make sure we're counted.
What I tell everybody is, listen, I know that some people, particularly in impoverished communities, say, hey, listen, I don't want to give my information because I don't want to use it against me. And what I explain to them all the time, this is about a count for us to get resources. The more we're counted, the more resources we receive. So don't look at it as somebody trying to get you. Look at it about how we can use this in order to deal with the levels that we deal with when it comes to poverty.
Pennsylvania State Representative Ed Gainey.
Coping with coronavirus.
From the Power News Radio Network.
If you or your organization is hosting a community service event, we would like to know about it and be a part of it. KLEK will promote your event on air, online, and on social media. KLEK personalities may also attend the event and provide music and or entertainment. Certain restrictions and availability may apply. Call 870-277-1080 or email us at klek@klekfm.org. We ask that the announcement be sent at minimum 1 week in advance.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
Welcome back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. I'm your host, Kavita Jones, with my special guest, Mrs. Emma Agnew, candidate for Jonesboro City Council, Ward 1, Position 2. And we're going to get back into our conversation, but we have a few Facebook comments. I want to say good morning to a few people. So, good morning to Justin Castro. He says, I support your plans and I agree 100% on the need for greater diversity in the city's economic and political leadership. Thank you for running.
Thank you.
And then Mr. Henry Burrell says, good morning, KLEK and Mrs. Agnew. Thank you all so very much for checking in. Good morning to you all.
Good morning.
All right, so we're going to get right back into our conversation because I want to make sure you have enough time to address these issues.
Okay.
So first we're going to talk about, let's talk about quality of life.
Okay.
It's quality of life and projects that, would help benefit the majority of the needs of our citizens. And again, even if, as I mentioned, even if Team Jonesboro, the group, doesn't come back around, if some of those ideas or products are presented again, how can the city possibly go forward to make some of those things happen?
Well, I think, whether fortunately or unfortunately, the only way the city is going to be able to go forward with some of those projects is it's going to be the tax increase.
Okay.
And that was the big issue before. And it's always going to be the elephant in the room is how do we suggest that people are all in favor, or seem to be in favor of a better quality of life for everyone. I haven't heard anybody say, I don't think anybody should have a better quality of life than me. I haven't heard anybody say that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people are for quality of life, but a lot of us are stuck on not wanting to pay any more taxes. And, I get it. We are taxed to death in this country. And so I do get it, but unfortunately, for things to get done, there is going to have to be more money involved.
Mm-hmm.
And so until that happens, until the citizens of this great city decide that it's time for half-cent sales tax to get some changes done, a 1 cent sales tax for however many years, there's just not going to be, it's going to pretty much be the status quo.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so we know that it's going to take some money to get some things done.
Mm-hmm.
And so we as the citizens are going to have to make a decision at some point. And just a little interjection, and this is where the census comes into play as well.
Absolutely.
So please.
Good segue, girl.
So we want to encourage everyone to, if an enumerator comes by your home or go online, fill out that census form. That helps to bring dollars to our community.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes less than 5 minutes. And that CDBG money I was talking about before, it is based on census data.
Oh, okay.
And that's how the formula works. And so not only that, but, a lot of other fundings. And so it is crucial. Thank you for mentioning that in this segment, because go online. It's the simplest and quickest way. Census.gov, complete that census less than 5 minutes. And we need everybody to complete the census so Jonesboro can get all the funding that it should be getting.
Yes, ma'am. All right, and so another issue is housing. And as I mentioned before, people think this is an ugly word, and it is what it is. Gentrification is happening, whether we want to admit it or not. And it may be happening on a smaller scale in our city versus bigger cities. However, I, again, have seen developments go into different parts of town that essentially push others that have lived there for most of their life out because they can no longer afford the property tax, or they can no longer afford the rent or mortgage of the homes that are in those areas. What influence, or I don't want to say power, I'm going to say influence for lack of a better word, does the city council have when it comes to developers come to approach you all, the city government, to say, I want to
So, look, you about to get me on my soapbox this morning. It's not so much the power that the city council has. It is the power that citizens and residents have.
Okay.
I have preached this for as long as I can remember. The community has to become engaged. The community has to be involved. The community has to be informed and show up at these council meetings when these projects are introduced. You have to be organized. You can't just show up rambling and going on. You have to get yourself organized and show up at these city council meetings and speak knowledgeably so they will know you know what you're talking about. And the city council will be swayed generally by what the community wants. I mean, we're there to serve the community. I'm counting myself in already. The city council is there to serve the community. They're supposed to serve your wants and your needs. And so if there is an outcry for this project, then it behooves the city council to go with that. If not, then you need to be looking at a new city council when come election time. And so the power is in the community's hands. It always is.
Okay.
People have to use their voice.
Alrighty, and so we definitely want to remind people that Jonesboro.org is the City of Jonesboro's webpage.
Right.
And there's a tab for City Council, or if you just type in the search box, City Council Agenda, is the agenda available before the meeting?
Yes, the agenda is available before the meeting. I would wear that City of Jonesboro page out. And the City Council meets on Tuesdays, the first and third Tuesday of each month, unless it's rescheduled for whatever reason. And then there are various committee meetings that you want to keep up with, because a lot of these projects that get to full council has to go through committee first. And sometimes you can show up at committee meetings, and if the committee decides that it's not going to council, it's not going to council. So let's get involved, and we have to participate in the process. The process is there for a reason. We just have to participate in it.
All right, well, with that being said, I know that you will, if you're elected, you will make decisions for the city as a whole.
Right.
However, because you represent Ward 1, what are some ways that you can try to engage more with the residents in Ward 1 to help to hopefully get them more engaged?
Well, one way is we do have a neighborhood association. And so one way that I will engage is to attend more of those meetings. Our president, Judy Castile, hopefully will forgive me. I do attend periodically, but I have not been an active participant. But I would want to reach out through that neighborhood association to the community. And also, as I start doing some door-to-door, I'm going to be trying to find out what residents feel are really issues in Ward 1. I know there are some concerns about some of the streets that need repairing, and that's an ongoing issue. I think in just about every community is road work, which is a part of the infrastructure, of course. And so I invite anyone in Ward 1 to reach out to me, inbox, Facebook, telephone, any way they can to let me know what they think the main issues in Ward 1 are.
Okay. I want to say hello to a few people. And Mr. Henry Burrell says empowerment is the key word.
Right.
Good morning, Erica Jenkins. And good morning to Dominique Phillips. Thank you all for checking in.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And so, again, we talked about, housing and quality of life. And going back to the quality of life just a little bit, that also includes quality jobs as well.
Right.
If the people are not working the jobs needed to sustain their life, and it's not that a lot of people are trying to live lavish, they're just trying to make it from day to day.
Yeah.
So what what influence does the city council have on these different businesses that want to come in and looking at, I know you can't control the salaries they pay, but determining, okay, is this really going to be a good fit for Jonesboro? Is it going to be environmentally beneficial to Jonesboro? Because I have a degree in sociology, and so I've studied about how different businesses and different entities can be detrimental. And because of the location that they're placed in, it affects the residents. You usually don't see factories going up in six-figure home income, six-figure housing development.
Right, yeah. So. I get you. The city works with the Chamber of Commerce to do as this economic development arm.
Okay.
So the chamber actually does most of the recruiting of businesses for the city of Jonesboro. And I think you were asking about the city council's ability to, so all of that would go through the city council, and the city council would vote. But here again, the city council is going to be listening to the input from the community.
Okay.
Now, if the community doesn't show up and offer any input, then the council will, of course, vote its conscience individually, and it has to be a majority with the mayor breaking. If it's a tie, then the mayor will break that tie.
Okay.
But here again, decisions that the council makes when it's open for Q&A, whatever, that's the time for the community to speak up. If you have a problem with the business locating this close to you or whatever, then it's the time to speak up. I don't know how many remember when they tried to locate a homeless shelter over on Southwest Drive, in that old, more recent than that, this was the old hospital. I can't think right now, but anyway, on Southwest Drive. Somebody help me out. But more recently, the same kind of facility out on 141.
Okay.
And in both cases, the community showed up in full forces. We do not want a homeless shelter this close to our homes, this close to our schools, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it did not happen. And so that's what has to happen. If there is a industrial facility that you have, as again, educate yourself, that you have studied up on, and it certain pollutants or whatever, then you need to show up and say, this is why we do not want this close to our community and close to our neighborhood.
Okay.
But there are a lot of safe industries that can locate in neighborhoods as well, or close to neighborhoods. But yeah, it's all up to the community.
Okay. We have some more comments. Mr. Derek Coleman, he asks, what is your area? And then 2, do you agree with candidates having just running in ward only, or do you prefer that the candidates run for this whole city?
Okay, he asked me two questions.
Well, what is your area? What area does Ward 1 cover?
Okay, I figured somebody's going to ask me that. It's a paragraph, Derek, and everybody else. And I will be very honest with you. Some of these streets at this moment, I do not know where they are. It begins the intersection of the railroad and the corporate limits. It says near Mahon Drive. Then it goes east to the railroad to South Culver House, then along the center line of South Culver House to the center line of West Oak, then west along the center line of West Oak Street to the center line of Flint Street, then south along the center line of Flint Street to the center line of West Nettleton, then west along the center line of West Nettleton to the center line of Cole Street, then from Cole Street to Wood Street, then southwest from Wood Street to Highway 63, easterly along the center line of Highway 63 to Highway 49, which is Southwest Drive, then southerly to US Highway 49, back to Wood Street, then from Wood Street to Neely Road, then west on Neely Road to Wood Springs Road, then west along the Wood Springs Road to the Hope Road, then southerly along the center line of Friendly Hope Road to Fleming Road, easterly along the center line of Fleming Road to the intersection of Fleming Road, Kellis Chapel Road, and Maple Valley Drive, southerly along Maple Valley Drive to the intersection of Maple Valley Drive, which is Highway 49, and Wimpy Lane, then south along the center line of Wimpy Lane to the corporate limits.
Wow.
Then west along the corporate limits to the point of the beginning. So I bet you thought it was going to be an easy answer to that.
Okay.
But yeah, so, and like I said, a couple of those streets, I don't even know where they are, but my goal is to get out in the very near future and drive this, because I do want to know where every street is, and exactly, where the ward is.
Okay.
But I do want to remind everyone that right now, Mr. Coleman and listeners, this is a citywide race.
Okay.
So it does not matter what ward you live in. That's the ward I would have to live in as a candidate.
Okay.
But you will be able to vote. Matter of fact, there will be 6 city council positions up for a vote. So you will be voting on 6 council positions, Ward 1 and 5 others. Ward 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 all have position 2s that are running.
Okay.
And then the second question was about the by ward vote.
Yes.
The city council proposed earlier this year, and it was suspended until January. They decided to wait until January. That at least one position, each ward has 2 positions, and they have suggested that one of those positions be by ward only.
Okay.
Which means you would live in your ward, and only people who live in your ward would represent you.
Okay.
Would vote for you, I'm sorry. And then the second position would remain at large.
Okay.
And so I like that idea. I would support that if I were elected. I think that would be a good way to ensure that everybody gets included and gets a voice. Running citywide is not a bad thing, but a lot of times people don't know who their council person is. And a lot of times council people aren't real familiar, just like all of this I read, they aren't real familiar, with everything in their ward and all the communities in their ward. So I think that hybrid model would be a good model and a good start. So.
Okay. And that leads into our next question, which we only have a minute left in this segment, so we'll try to answer it on the other side. But one second, more to Gwen Henderson, checking in from Arizona. And then John Bearden says, with such a diverse ward, do you believe that you would be able to get the Valley View area and the North Jonesboro area on the same page with progress? Because they are very different sides of town.
Yes, they are. You said we're going to answer that on the other side?
Well, if you want, yeah, because we're down to 30 seconds. So,
okay.
Mr. John, if you stay tuned, we will tackle that on the other side of our break. You're tuned into Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. Again, I'm your host, Quabila Jones, and my special guest this morning is Mrs. Emma Agnew, candidate for Jonesboro City, I keep wanting to say KLEK, Jonesboro City Council, Ward 1, Position 2. So again, if you have any questions or comments, drop them in our live feed. We're getting ready to take a break, and when we come back, we'll have a shorter time. So you can drop your questions. I'll make sure that Mrs. Emma gets them, or you can find her on Facebook, Emma Agnew for Jonesboro.
Yeah.
Okay, and she also has a web page, and we'll definitely give you that information when we come back. But please stay tuned. You don't want to miss the last segment. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
We're back with Money Matters. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. A major part of managing your money is learning basic financial concepts that can improve your decision making. For example, I use opportunity cost to decide whether a sale or a discount is really worth the trouble. Let's say a cell phone provider is offering 1/3 off on a $900 phone for today only. For a $300 savings, it might be worth checking the sale out on my lunch break. But if I consider the value of my time, say $100 an hour, it's not worth driving to a store 2 hours away, which equals $400 round trip, plus gas and mileage, just to get the discount. I'd be better off buying the phone at full price at a time and location that is convenient for me. By the way, you need to assign a dollar value to your time because time really is money. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. for Money Matters, a product of American Urban Radio Networks.
Made possible by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, focused on joy in our sisterhood, power in our voice, and service in our hearts. www.jonesboroalumnidst.org.
Money Matters is brought to you by the Guide Right Jonesboro Kappa League, a nonprofit organization that guides young men to a life of achievement. Kappa League Jonesboro on Facebook, Jonesboro_Kappa League on Instagram, and JonesboroKappaLeague@gmail.com.
Money Matters is brought to you by Bancorp South, offering checking, savings, loans, credit cards, and wealth management. www.bancorpsouth.com or 870-972-9800.
KLEK thanks Charles and Candace Mabry and the staff of Mabry Smokehouse for their support of KLEK and dedication to the Jonesboro community. Mabry's offers Texas-style barbecue, beef brisket, pulled pork, ribs, rib tips, chicken wings, smoked sausage, barbecue fries and nachos, sides, and desserts. Located 1504 Red Wolf Boulevard, Jonesboro. Open 11 to 8 Tuesday through Thursday, Friday and Saturday. More info, Mabry Smokehouse on Facebook. KLEK 102.5 FM salutes small businesses. Small businesses promote local character and success, keeping money in the local economy, local jobs, entrepreneurship, community well-being, and so much more. Contact us today to learn more on how your small business could be featured on KLEK for as little as $25 per month. Shout out to Divas Dynasty Massage Therapy. healing and relaxation for the body with hands anointed by God. 870-253-7684, Divas Dynasty Massage Therapy on Facebook. Shout out to Treasures Kids Daycare, child care for preschool 2.5 to 5 years old. 5114 East Middleton Avenue, Jonesboro. 870-623-5770, Treasures Kids Daycare on Facebook. Shout out to Candace Brooks Realtor, available to serve you during the home buying process with a motto of clients come first and constant communication with clients. 870-816-8652, CandaceBrooks.com.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
Welcome back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM with my special guest, Mrs. Emma Agnew. Oops. Okay, I don't know what that is. Oh, that's the wrong microphone. Okay, here we go. Okay. All right, here we are. My special guest, Mrs. Emma Agnew, candidate for Jonesboro City Council, Ward 1, Position 2. We're going to get into the question that was asked. Was there a question? Yes. Question that was asked before we went to break. And it was asking, Mr. John says, you know, with such a diverse ward, do you believe that you will be able to get the Valley View and North Jonesboro areas on board, on the same page when it comes to progress?
I think so. First, North Jonesboro is not actually my ward. I just, have a heart for that area, and I've worked quite a bit in that area. But yeah, I think so. I mean, I think I really believe that, as I said, most citizens want there to be a good quality of life for everybody. Yeah, I don't think there's hardly anyone that's opposed to a better quality of life for folk. And so I think it's just, it would probably take some meeting of the minds. The representatives for North Jonesboro, there are two gentlemen who represent that ward very well, and so I think it would take a meeting of the 4 council people from those areas to kind of come up, with an idea or a plan and get some citizen input. As I say, I'm big on input and involvement. And take it from there. But I think it's possible because those areas are so far apart that anything that's going on in North Jonesboro will indirectly, as I say, when North Jonesboro does better, Valley View is going to do better. The whole city is going to do better. And so. That's the way I look at it. So I don't think it'll be that, be that difficult.
Okay. We have a few more comments. Mr. Henry Burrell says, Mrs. Agnew has a proven track record of successful leadership and getting things done. And our baby Chelsea Chapman says, good morning. Miss you both. Mrs. Emma, I'm so proud.
Girl, don't you even talk to me. I'm still mad at you.
Oh, goodness.
But hey, Chelsea, good to hear from you.
All right, so I have another question. I hope we get time to get the answer fully in. When it comes to controversial issues, and I asked every candidate this, I'm going to ask you this as well, and you were very instrumental in, pointing to the sign behind you.
Yeah.
So let's talk about if another issue was to come before the council again. We know that a special committee was formed to address the issue. How do you feel about maybe a committee being formed on a permanent basis, or should it be a case by case, or should a committee be formed at all?
Well, I'm going to give you a not so much answer.
Okay.
But I think it's going to depend on the issue.
Okay.
As the way to go, whether you need a committee or not. I don't think that right now we just need a permanent committee.
Okay.
I'm not sure what that committee would be doing. If you had a permanent committee. So I don't believe in committees just for committee's sake.
Okay.
But I think it would depend on the issue that's going on, whether or not an appointed committee would be wise.
Okay. But do you feel that, and this was a comment made by another candidate, that the city council is essentially supposed to be that committee that makes those decisions if an issue comes before you all or that's on the agenda? So,
well, the committee would not make the decision. The committee would recommend to the city council. So that's what the committee would do, is to do research, hash it out, and then recommend to the mayor and the city council. This is what the committee that you appointed thinks.
Okay. All right. And we're getting into our last 2.5 minutes, and we have a comment from J.J. Sifford, who says, I was asked to ask about your position regarding the Crisis Stabilization Center. Isn't it up and operating?
I believe it is up and operating. I think it's been operating for quite a while.
Okay.
I don't really know what. I mean, I'm in favor of it. I'm not sure when they say my position.
Okay.
I mean, it's up and running. I don't know that my position matters a whole lot at this time, because it's there and it's running, and I think it's needed. That was one of the facilities that was going to be with the homeless shelter out on 141, that the community just came together and said, you're not putting it out here. And so they ended up putting it out near the county jail. But anyway, I certainly think it's needed in the city, for the city of Jonesboro, for KLEK County.
Okay. Oh, they said, do you know the requirements for mentally ill persons on the street? I guess if someone is, homeless or just on the street, I'm not for sure.
I'm not sure about that question. The requirements on, I assume they're asking what can be done for them. My understanding is you can't force them to do anything.
Okay.
So they have to volunteer. They have to volunteer to be examined and placed somewhere. But if they refuse, you can't make them.
Okay. We're in our last minute tell people why they should vote for you and your last few your words.
Okay. Well, I would certainly appreciate every vote, listening, and tell your friends, your family, your neighbors to vote for Emma Agnew. She is the best candidate for this job. She has been a community servant pretty much all her life. We grew up, I'm one of 9 children, and we all grew up giving back to the community. Our parents raised us to be fair, to treat people fairly, and to give back to the community, and I've tried to do that all my life. I have worked in city government the last 7 years. I am familiar with the city structure, city programs, and I need your vote. Please vote.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us, Mrs. Emma. And it feels kind of good to be in the studio, but this won't be and but again, thank you all for tuning in, supporting KLEK 102.5 FM. We are your community radio station. We do not support or endorse any candidate. This is provided for informational purposes
only. Thank you for listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place while